The United Kingdom has been killing your personal freedom for years. Today I'm going to fill you in on what they have been doing to kill your personal freedom and how you can escape the British nightmare. The British government has been removing your liberties very deceptively, but over time it did happen. And a number of things happened over the past years, including what we had seen recently happening in the UK, where British citizens expressed their opinions freely on the internet and in other places, and they were actually punished for something that's considered freedom of speech. So the current crisis that the citizens of the UK are in has really been brought to the attention through the freedom of speech crisis the country is in. Even though current Prime Minister Keir Starmer has mentioned that freedom of speech is still very much present in the United Kingdom, the results and the recent changes, the recent courses of actions that we have witnessed tell us otherwise. So what is really happening? You tell me. It looks like the United Kingdom is on a downward trajectory toward removing more and more personal liberties from everyday citizens. It is happening. The proof is in the pudding. Naturally, British citizens are looking to depart the United Kingdom, a place they called home for years and many even decades. There are many things happening in the surveillance department where you can see, yes, the British government is actually removing personal freedoms of everyday UK citizens, step by step by step by step. These liberties are being removed without anybody taking notice. And this is usually one of the most painful experiences to undergo, because in your mind you don't really realize that, hey, liberties are being taken away from me, until people are being arrested. Lots of things are happening that were not previously happening in the UK. The idea of citizenship-based taxation cannot be ignored. While it is true that currently citizens of the United Kingdom who live abroad, a lot of them don't have to pay income taxes to the British government. However, this could change sooner or later for a number of reasons. Taxes are rampant across the Western Hemisphere, and the United Kingdom is no exception. Governments are ballooning their national debt. The national debt of the United Kingdom is not looking good, just as it is not looking good in pretty much in any country in Europe. It's not looking good in America. It's not looking good in Canada. The national debt is just out of proportion. And the debt to GDP ratio is really what we want to be paying attention to. And the UK isn't doing good at all. The UK is no longer good at manufacturing. The UK is not self-reliant at all. It is not self-reliant when it comes to gas, energy. It is not self-reliant. When it comes to everyday items that you need, most of it is imported. It's been outsourced to the East decades ago. And now British citizens are finally feeling the pain of the actions that have been taken decades ago, making the lives of everyday British citizens so much more expensive. As always, the working class and the middle class suffer the most. If you are a wealthy British citizen, you can always leave. You can always go to a place, enjoy yourself, because you have the purchasing power to do so. The working class has a much harder task to solve. Going abroad for work opportunities may not always be the best of choices. If you're in a sector that pays very little money abroad, then it's going to be hard for you to make ends meet living in a different country, say in Southeast Asia, in Latin America, or even in Eastern Europe, right? In your backyard, it would be harder for you to make ends meet than in the UK, despite of the fact that the cost of living is completely blown out of proportion in the Western Hemisphere, and the UK has experienced some of the highest cost of living increases in modern day history. The UK does have a tax-free allowance, making the lives easier for people with low income, below average income, with a below median income. You do have a tax-free allowance of £12,570. I know that's not a lot of money in today's world, but it often is enough to cover your rent. And then it depends on how much money you make. You may be taxed 20% of your income, perhaps 40%, or even as much as 45% should you fall into the highest income tax bracket. The corporation tax rate in the UK is sitting at 25%. Obviously, this applies to companies with a decent profit of well over 250,000 British pounds. If your profit is less than 50,000 pounds annually, you're going to pay 19% in corporate taxes. You may be entitled to marginal relief should your profits sit between 50,000 to 250,000 pounds. Now, 19 to 25% in corporate taxes is not exactly a bargain. There are a lot of countries in Europe with much lower corporate tax rates than the UK. Some of the best options for setting up a corporation in Europe, which is your very backyard, would be Bulgaria, where you'd pay no more than 10% in corporate taxes. It's a very tax-friendly country. Easy to move to. You can get a trade representative office visa. Let's say you had your company set up and incorporated in the UK for at least 2 years. You could immigrate from the UK to Bulgaria, which obviously is part of the European Union. The United Kingdom is no longer part of the European Union, but since you have a British company, you can relocate your business pretty much. I mean, you can start a trade representative office for your British company in Bulgaria and potentially also set up a completely new corporation in Bulgaria where you would only get taxed up to 10% of your corporate profits. Now, setting up a company in Bulgaria is a lot easier than many other places. It is not very difficult to do. You don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars like in other places, for instance in Dubai, or if you want to go into a tax haven where you might pay 0% or less than 10%, but your costs would be much higher than in Bulgaria. Another very popular option for entrepreneurs in Europe would be Hungary. You're looking at a corporate tax rate of just 9%. Hungary is obviously less talked about. Why is that? Because personal income taxes in Hungary are just much higher than in Bulgaria. In Bulgaria, let's say you move your business from the UK to Bulgaria, you're looking at a personal income tax rate of maximum 10% as well. In Hungary, it would be much higher than that, because Hungary does apply progressive personal income taxation, just like the United Kingdom does. Another very popular option is Cyprus. It's an island located in Europe in the Mediterranean. You're looking at a corporate tax rate of 12.5%. It's very tax friendly. If you become a resident of Cyprus, you would only have to live there for 60 days annually, and you may not have to pay income tax for certain types of income. Anyway, the point of this video is to really highlight how the UK has been killing your personal freedom for years. The ever-increasing personal and corporate taxes don't make it easy for everyday British citizens and entrepreneurs to thrive. So given the fact that the United Kingdom has been killing your personal freedom for years, how have they been doing it? They've been doing it by increasing personal and corporate income taxes. And like we've talked about in this video, you're looking to pay 19 to 25% in corporate taxes, and for income taxes you're looking at maximum of 45%. But that's a lot of money for someone who works his butt off to create an income, to preserve capital, and a lot of that money will be taken away from you. And as we've talked about, you have some very interesting options in Eastern Europe. You have Hungary, Bulgaria, you have Cyprus and the Mediterranean. There are also a couple more countries in Eastern Europe worth mentioning, such as Bosnia would be very interesting, potentially Albania, also much lower corporate tax than in the UK. You also have options overseas, right? In different geographic locations like Latin America. You could start a business in Paraguay where the corporate tax rate is capped at 10%. If you start a local business that trades within the Mercosur region, you may qualify for a 1% corporate tax rate. It's known as the Maquila law. You also have options in the Caribbean, very tax-friendly places and even tax havens, where you would pay anywhere from 0 to 10 to 15% in corporate taxes. But all of this is a lot better than what you're looking at in the UK. In fact, it's a lot better than what you have been paying in the UK. The United Kingdom has been killing your personal freedom for years because the cost of living is just completely blown out of proportion, right? The cost of living is no longer affordable for middle-class British citizens. The upper middle class obviously has options for real estate purchase abroad. If you have a property in the UK and you have a decent amount of savings, you have 6 figures in savings, then obviously you have options pretty much anywhere in the world, right? Except for the very high-end places in the Middle East, potentially in Southeast Asia. Singapore would be very difficult to get into, but if you're upper middle class, it's much easier to immigrate than someone who is middle class or working class would be much harder because there's a lack of job opportunities. For the middle class, it really depends on the kind of job you want to get, right? One of the biggest reasons why you might want to consider exiting the United Kingdom is because of home ownership becoming very difficult to impossible. With a median income, it takes many people years or even decades to save up for the down payment for their home, making home ownership a distant dream. And the very expensive rental market doesn't make their lives easier. Given the fact that you spend a good portion of your income on your rent, an amount that you actually should be using for the mortgage of your home. But the problem is also that mortgage rates are super high in the UK. The current conditions are just absurd, making home ownership practically impossible for middle-class British citizens. Mortgage rates have been the highest they've been in over a decade, and why would you want to get a mortgage if you don't even have enough money for down payment anyway? And then considering how much money you would be paying back over, I don't know, maybe like a 10 to 20 year period, I mean, you are looking at paying back a lot more money than someone who got a mortgage perhaps 15, 20 years ago. On top of that, the energy crisis the United Kingdom is in doesn't make it easier at all. Energy costs are rampant, and the current conflict that's ongoing in Eastern Europe between the Ukraine and Russia doesn't make the lives of British citizens easier at all. So one of the best things you can do if you have the prerequisites, if you have an income, if you have savings, if you have the opportunity, one of the best things you can do is relocate to a tax-friendly, low-cost country that welcomes you with open arms, where you can own foreign property, where you can become a citizen, where you can own a foreign company, where you can own a local company, in fact, because you're going to be an immigrant to that country. You want to move to a country where you receive the full package of civil and reciprocity rights, and these countries can be found in Eastern Europe, like a Bulgaria, like a Hungary, like an Albania, like a Bosnia. You could move to these countries, or you can move to Latin America. Panama, Uruguay, Paraguay are very tax-friendly countries with relaxed immigration policies for British citizens. If you're interested in escaping the British nightmare, if you don't want to keep watching how the elite of the UK keeps killing your personal freedom, please book a consultation with Nomad Elite today. In fact, book a consultation with me personally. Go to nomadelite.com and book your call now. I look forward to talking to you and advising you on the best possible options. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate you, and I look forward to welcoming you to the next video.